Hello and welcome to the channel. This is Jack and Chill, and this is the Justice League book tag.
Remember, you can't spell relaxo without relax.
So I'm a DC Comics book fans through and through. I absolutely love the world of Batman and Superman, Wonder Woman, the Justice League, Teen Titans, and there's been a lot of DC Comics talk recently thanks to James Gunn's reveal several weeks ago about his upcoming slate of movies, as himself and David Zaslav are now the head of the DC universe from Warner Brothers. So I decided to create a Justice League book tag in honour of that. This book tag has 7 prompts based on the original 7 founding members of the Justice League. For each character, I'll briefly discuss a book that I've read, and where I can, I'll recommend a comic book or graphic novel from that character. Let's begin with Batman, and for this category, I wanted to consider a book about a vigilante or vigilanteism, someone looking to seek justice and perhaps take the law into their own hands. And for this category, I went for And Then There Were None by Agatha Christie. This is a classic murder mystery about a group of people stranded on an island, and one by one they're getting killed and picked off. Not to spoil the mystery of whodunit, but the whole impetus of why these people are getting killed is based on justice and things they've done that the murderer perceives as being wrong or criminal, and they're looking to right those wrongs by killing them. In that same vein, my recommendation of a Batman comic book is Grant Morrison's and J.H. Williams' The Black Glove, which is essentially a Batman retelling of Agatha Christie's story. It's about a group of heroes, including Batman and Robin, stuck on a mysterious island, and one by one, some of the heroes are getting killed off. It's one of my all-time favourite Batman stories, partially because of the Agatha Christie inspiration, but also it's just a very tight mystery, which Batman obviously excels in. I also discussed this storyline on the Gotham Outsiders podcast. I'll drop the link below. Our next prompt is for Superman, and this is for a book that is just generally positive and uplifting. It's hopeful and inspirational, and it just sort of oozes joy. I really struggled with this category, as generally what I read can lean towards darker content. I read a lot of like horror, mysteries, and like thrillers. But what I actually settled on was Oh the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss. My absolute favourite Dr. Seuss story and book. I go back and read it quite often. It's just very positive and uplifting. Dr. Seuss talks about life's ups and downs, and moving on in the world. It's just a very positive, happy and joyous book. Highly recommend it for anyone of any age. Kid, you'll move mountains. For my Superman comic book recommendation, I went for All-Star Superman, which is actually a Superman comic in which all the creators are actually Scottish. Grant Morrison, the writer, they're Scottish. Frank Whiteley, the artist, he's Scottish. And Jamie Grant, the colourist, also Scottish. So I take a lot of pride in what frankly is the greatest Superman story ever told. Is created by 3 Scottish creators. The next prompt is for Wonder Woman, and it is basically that. Wonderful woman. and book that has an all-female cast, is about female empowerment, just generally celebrates women. So for this I chose Circe by Madeline Miller. Madeline Miller, who also wrote The Song of Achilles. This is another Greek myth retelling about Circe, the witch who was an outcast from the world of the gods, to live on an island on her own. And it basically tells her life story through an incredibly feminist lens. For my recommended Wonder Woman book, I chose The Spirit of Truth, written by Paul Dini, who was one of the writers and creators behind Batman the Animated Series and the whole DC animated universe, with beautiful painted pages by the master that is Alex Ross. It's not the most action-packed comic, but if you want to know who Wonder Woman is, and her ethos and who she is as a person, it really gets to the heart of it. Moving on to The Flash now, the fastest man alive. And for this prompt, I was considering what's one of the fastest novels you've ever read. That can be quite broad. You could talk about anything really, but the idea is what's a novel that you read really quickly in a short space of time, for whatever reason, whether it was because the novel itself was quite short, or you just couldn't put it down and just wanted to speed through it. So for this I chose Casino Royale by Ian Fleming. This is the first James Bond novel that he wrote. It's a very fast-paced story. The action moves really quickly, and you just don't want to put it down, basically. Next we have The Green Lantern, which is a prompt which explores the novel, which is either set in space, on a spaceship, or on another planet. Just anything which is not on Earth. So for this category I chose a Star Wars novel, which is Into the Dark by Claudia Gray, which is a young adult novel set within the time period of the High Republic, which is a time period in the Star Wars universe which is set 200 years before the Phantom Menace. So it's a time period where the Jedi are essentially at the height of their power, and the universe is generally much brighter and positive. It's a time of exploration and expansion. So Into the Dark is about a group of Jedi and the crew of a transport ship that are stranded on an isolated and abandoned space station, in which they meet an evil entity species that stalks them, and they have to face off against. Essentially it's Ridley Scott's Alien, but set within the Star Wars universe. So our next hero we have is Aquaman. So this prompt is fairly straightforward. It's a novel about being at sea, underwater, on a boat. So for this is a novel that I highly recommend. It's The Root of Ice and Salt by Jose Luis Zarate, which is a queer retelling of Dracula. In the original Bram Stoker novel, the Demeter, which is the ship that takes Dracula from Transylvania to the port in England, that voyage is kind of skipped over, and we just see what happens when the ship lands in England. So the novel tells the story of that journey on the ship from the perspective of the captain, who is a queer man, and it delves into the captain's personal life, what it means to be a man, where the line is drawn between man and monster. Meanwhile there's this very atmospheric, stormy, gothic feel to it, and the crew's been stalked by an unseen presence, which is obviously Dracula. I very highly recommend the book. It's short. I feel it's very underrated and not talked about. The Root of Ice and Salt by Jose Luis Zarate. The final original founding member that we have of the Justice League is the Martian Manhunter, who is obviously an alien living on Earth. He's a shapeshifter and the last of his species, who is now in disguise in human form, and he works as a police detective. So for this category I wanted to explore a novel which examines identity, alienation. The protagonist is looking to belong and fit in. Unfortunately, I couldn't think of anything that I had read personally that really fits into that category, so I'm totally open to any suggestions and recommendations from you, dear viewers. Please let me know down below. I do have a recommendation for a comic which does feature the Martian Manhunter and the Flash and Green Lantern, and all of these characters in major roles, and that is what I think not only the best Justice League story or DC Comics story, but possibly the greatest comic book, or at least my favourite comic book ever written or drawn, and that is Darwin Cook's Justice League: The New Frontier. Incredibly beautiful book about the kind of origins of the golden age of the DC universe, moving into the Silver Age as we know it. So there you have it, that's my Justice League inspired book tag, the first book tag I've ever created or actually participated in. People that I want to tag and I would like to see explore my prompts are Criminale, Michelle's Melancholia, and Still Waiting for My Satyr. You're more than welcome to join in, and anyone is more than welcome to join in and give me their suggestions of books for each prompt, or feel free to come up with your own prompts based on other members of the Justice League and their ever expanding endless roster. For example, you could have Zatanna, and the prompt could be your favourite novels involving a magician, just as an example. Thank you so much for watching, I really truly deeply appreciate it. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel, share with your friends and family or anyone who you think would like my content and channel. Follow me on social media, Instagram and Twitter is at JackIngram95. My Etsy store is Jack Ingram Art. I'm Jack, thanks for chilling, stay super.